Maverick News presents The Rick Walker Show. Defrag your mind.
Good evening, Mavericks. I'm Rick Walker. Welcome back. It hasn't been very long for a lot of you, I know, because many of you have been watching the National Citizens Inquiry all day, which we have been live streaming. Unfortunately, not to YouTube, and for only a portion of the day on Facebook. It ran all day on Rumble and Twitch and Odyssey. So we had it up there, but not on YouTube, taken down near the end of the day on Facebook. The broadcast was up most of the day there, but it was interrupted late afternoon, so I apologize, but beyond my control. We're living in an age of censorship. National Citizens Inquiry today happening in Winnipeg, day one of a 3-day stop there in Winnipeg, Manitoba. The third city that the inquiry has visited so far, and some very emotional testimony. Also tonight, we're going to dig into the arrest that has been made of a 21-year-old in relation to the leaked Pentagon documents. We'll talk about that. We'll show you some video. We'll get some reaction. So all that to go down. Also, University of Windsor in Canada has released a new video. It took them, I guess, 2 years to put this together, which surprises me. But it's all about how to use the right pronouns. This is the issue that got Professor Jordan Peterson into the middle of a lot of controversy. And this has found its way into our culture, into our language. I don't even understand it. I use the pronouns they, them, he, she. And then there were, in this video, which I'm going to run for you, it's a panel or a committee, I guess, of students, and I think mostly students and some faculty. They've come up with guidelines to help people navigate through this confusing use of pronouns. Anyway, we'll get into all of that. What else do we have for you tonight? We have, the robot, Digidog. I just want to comment on that briefly tonight. Digidog being rolled out in New York City to help the cops there. They say it'll save lives. Yeah, until AI takes over. And then the dog decides to bite you. Normally, when I went to journalism school, they said, what's news? And what isn't news? And The answer that some people come up with when asked that question is dog bites man, not news. Happens all the time. Man bites dog. That's news. Well, what happens when Digidog bites man? What happens when AI takes over and Digidogs exterminate us all? That would be news. And I have plenty of news coming right up. Don't go away.
Maverick News. The world is watching. Greetings, brave Mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals, defenders of individual rights and freedoms, credible, trusted, grounded in reality. Maverick News, Maverick News. Defending free speech, free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
I'm back. So, what's going on with this leaked Pentagon documents story? Well, a U.S. Air National Guard member is going to be charged in a leak of classified documents. Yes, it's true. 21-year-old JackTeixeira. That's his name. He's a Massachusetts Air National Guard member, and he has emerged as the main person of interest in the investigation into these leaked Pentagon documents, which the Pentagon itself has been trying to downplay and say, well, we don't know. They might have been altered, and so they might not even be accurate. Well, I think that they are pretty darn accurate, and they don't seem to be denying the authenticity of them very aggressively today. So the announcement that this arrest had been made came from Attorney General Merrick Garland. They say the guardsman specializes in intelligence and was involved with an online chat group in Discord. Again, his name is JackTeixeira, and he's going to be charged, apparently, with unauthorized removal of classified national documents, national defense documents. He also apparently took pictures of classified documents, and what he did, they're saying, or what he allegedly did, is a criminal act. Is it an act of treason? Well, they're going to look into that too. They're going to see if there is any foreign involvement, any foreign state involved in this. There's some speculation that he may simply have been trying to impress some friends and some younger friends that he has. So this is a very young guy, 21 years old, given access to classified information. And I think it's a sign of the times. And to me, this plays out like a movie in many respects, right? You want to talk about war games. This is just so typical of it would be a typical Hollywood script, wouldn't it? Where it's the young kid with access to computers doing things on the computers that the adults just don't understand, in a chat room that most of the older folks just don't know about or even get. Can't have no real comprehension of it. I think to some degree, that's probably what was going on here, because the documents, I guess, were distributed online through these social media platforms. I think it's a huge embarrassment, a huge embarrassment for the U.S. security agencies, for the U.S. military. These were plans, hundreds of pages, outlining exactly what the U.S. military was doing, what they were up to. Most of this stuff, I guess, being leaked out by or reported on by the Washington Post. And yet, really not hearing too much about it in the mainstream media, or even through the independent media for that matter. I'll get into that in a moment, but first let's just pick up this report so that you get a sense of where things are at.
This was the moment of arrest. On a driveway in North Dighton, Massachusetts, 21-year-old Jack Teixeira is walked backwards towards armed FBI agents, into the back of an armored vehicle and custody. He is the young airman accused of using an internet chat room to chat national secrets, hundreds of them, over months, until his capture.
Today, the Justice Department arrested Jack Douglas Teixeira in connection with an investigation into alleged unauthorized removal, retention, and transmission of classified national defense information.
The Ukraine conflict featured in the published material, which the leaker said he'd brought home from work at a military base. Russia featured in documents, so did North Korea, Israel, and a host of countries, friend and foe. The Washington Post interviewed a member of the chat room who knew Teixeira by his chat room name, OG.
So he was a young, charismatic man who loved nature, God, who loved shooting guns and racing cars.
The documents were posted on Discord, an instant messaging platform popular with gamers. They're believed to have been posted on a server named Thug Shaker Central as early as mid-January by the leaker, who called himself OG. He shared typed out versions and then screenshots to a group of around 20 friends. Dozens of documents relating to the Ukraine war were then posted on a different server, making them widely available. The Pentagon says it's still examining the scope, scale, and impact of the leak. They can add embarrassment.
It is important to understand that we do have stringent guidelines in place for safeguarding classified and sensitive information. This was a deliberate criminal act.
At the same news conference, the Pentagon spokesman says it takes seriously the safety of its personnel and its allies. The very fact that needed restating reflects renewed questions about US intelligence, its integrity and security. It is the story of the young man dubbed OG who inflicted a security own goal. He was sharing secrets long before his government found out. The ramifications will last long after.
U.S. military intelligence. Something of an oxymoron, perhaps. Embarrassing? Yeah, I think so. Let's go to that news conference and pick that up. so you can get a little more information, more in depth, get a better sense of exactly what this is all about. Here we go.
Posted online or elsewhere does not mean it has been declassified by a classification authority. And those of you who've been covering the Pentagon for a long time know that we're just not going to discuss or confirm classified information due to the potential impact on national security, as well as the safety and security of our personnel and those of our allies and our partners. And for that reason, we will continue to encourage those of you who are reporting this story to take these latter factors into account and to consider the potential consequences of posting potentially sensitive documents or information online or elsewhere. Separately, Secretary Austin hosted Latvia's Minister of Defense, Inara Murniece, today at the Pentagon. The leaders discussed the strength of the U.S.-Latvia defense relationship and ongoing efforts to support Ukraine. They also discussed shared security interests in Europe, including NATO's deterrence and defense posture ahead of the July NATO summit in Vilnius. The readout will be available later today. Staying on Europe for a moment, next week, Secretary Austin will travel to Sweden to meet with his counterpart to discuss security-related topics shared by our two nations. From there, he'll travel to Germany, where he and Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Milley, will host an in-person meeting on April 21 of the Ukraine Defense Contact Group at Ramstein Air Base. This will be the 11th meeting of the UDCG since this vital forum was established by Secretary Austin 1 year ago. The Secretary and General Milley will join ministers of defense and senior military officials from nearly 50 nations around the world to discuss the ongoing crisis in Ukraine and to continue our close coordination on providing the Ukrainian people with the means necessary to protect themselves against Russia's unprovoked and illegal aggression. And as we've highlighted before, the contact group has been instrumental in identifying, synchronizing, and ensuring delivery of the military capabilities the Ukrainians need to defend their homeland. And on a semi-related note, at the end of this month, the Arkansas Army National Guard's 39th Infantry Brigade Combat Team will replace the New York Army National Guard's 27th Infantry Brigade Combat Team and assume command of the Joint Multinational Training Group, Ukraine, at Grafenwehr Training Area in Germany. The 27th Infantry Brigade Combat Team took charge of the JMTGU during a transfer authority ceremony in August of 2022, becoming the first and only unit in the JMTGU's 8-year history to assume the unit mission for a second time. We look forward to the arrival of the 39th and the continuation of the important work to provide Ukraine what it needs in terms of training to defend itself. And with that, I'll be happy to go to your questions. We'll go ahead and start with AP Tarakap.
Thank you, General Ryder. So can you confirm that Airman First Class Jack Teixeira, a member of the Massachusetts Air National Guard, is a person of interest in this leaked documents case? And I have several other questions.
Sure. So first of all, as I mentioned, there is an ongoing criminal investigation. And so anything related to that, I'm going to need to refer you to the DOJ or the FBI.
Can you speak at all to if anyone in the Department of Defense has reached out to this airman? Do you know where he is? There are reports that law enforcement is closing in on this airman's location.
And
so
they
has
got
anyone
him.
been able to reach out to him?
Again, Tara, appreciate the question, but again, given that this is an ongoing investigation, I'm not going to be able to talk about the investigation or any potential DOJ actions, so I'd refer you to them.
Okay, in the days after the leaks came to light, what steps has DoD taken to reduce the number of people who have access to not only these classified briefings, but the classified material in general?
Sure. So we continue to review a variety of factors as it relates to safeguarding classified materials. This includes examining and updating distribution lists, assessing how and where intelligence products are shared, and a variety of other steps. I would say, though, that it is important to understand that we do have stringent guidelines in place for safeguarding classified and sensitive information. This was a deliberate criminal act, a violation of those guidelines. And so, again, I think that's important to understand. Now, we will continue to do everything we can to ensure that people who have a need to know when it comes to this kind of information have access to that. We're always going to learn from every situation.
So yes, as I say, U.S. military intelligence. Kind of an oxymoron. Very embarrassing, to say the least. And why aren't they talking more about the details in the media, the details of what's in those documents? Well, first of all, you hear the military, the government officials, thinly veiled threats coming from them saying, just because it's out there, it's still classified information. You should really be thinking hard before you decide to publish that stuff. So there is that. I've thought about that too. It's just like, just because it's out there, should I really be posting it here on this channel? Talking about it, showing the documents? Maybe, maybe not. As a journalist, you certainly want to. But I don't really want to be the one who goes to jail posting that stuff if I can avoid that. Sometimes you got to do what you got to do, I guess. The documents were apparently stolen illegally. Some ethical issues surrounding all of that. And, different people have different views on the ethics as it relates to the use of documents that are released, put out into the public domain like that. It isn't really public domain property, though, is it? It's stolen. It's classified. It's out there. The public sees it. It is available online. If you talk about it, if you broadcast it, republish it, should that be a crime? Is it a crime? I don't know. I think there are some court cases to support the position that it wouldn't be a crime. And that's what the whole Julian Assange thing is partly about. Difficult position to be in. It brings up the whole, the old Pentagon papers issue and the ethics surrounding that and the challenges that journalists faced at the time, the legal questions that brought to the surface. And then ultimately, pretty much all the mainstream media reported on the Pentagon papers back in the Vietnam era. And in this case, this information, I guess, is showing some very embarrassing things. Why aren't they talking about it? Well, I'll tell you, it's not just the threat, the possible legal action or repercussions coming from the government. It's about more than that. It's also, I think, because the information in there, it's not embarrassing just because the information was leaked, that some 21-year-old kid basically got his hands on it and then showed the world what was really going on. It's the fact that he's showing the world what's really going on, that a lot of what we're being told is simply not true. Or if you want to put it another way, they're lying to us. It's showing that, as I understand it, some of these documents show that there are actually U.S. troops in Ukraine. There have been actual U.S. troops on the ground in Ukraine, not in large numbers, but some soldiers actually there. It shows what the real intent is, which is ultimately, I think, regime change in Russia, which is what I said. It's just so obvious. You don't need to be a military expert or even a rocket scientist to know what's really going on. Corruption, money laundering through one of the most corrupt countries in the world. It was corrupt before the war. It's corrupt now. Billions and billions and billions and billions and billions of dollars now flowing through Ukraine. And there are fresh allegations of possible corruption in Ukraine going right to Zelensky's office. Are they true? What do you think? And I think it shows too, these documents show that the U.S. NATO initiative there is not going as well as they are leading us to believe through the mainstream media. Their narrative doesn't hold. And I think the reality is Ukrainian forces have been eroded to a point where they're getting close to being not effective, which means they're coming for your sons and daughters, folks, soon. Because we've seen the determination, the political will to just keep on going. Biden is not going to quit. They're determined to keep this thing rolling. They're not going to back down, and the Russians can't back down. To them, they do absolutely see this conflict as an existential threat to Russia. So the bloody conflict will continue. It's going to be a long, long war. We ran that a portion of that video with Professor John Mearsheimer last night, and that's his assessment as well. And he is absolutely in tune with what's going on over in Ukraine. Brilliant mind, an expert who has been focused on Ukraine, Russia for a long time. Political scientist. He knows the score. We'd all be wise to pay attention. They should have been paying attention to him a long time ago, but they've brushed his concerns aside. They haven't paid much attention to him at all. Anyway, we'll see where all this goes. I think it's going to be, it'll be front and center. I wouldn't want to be in that airman's shoes, not tonight. They are going to throw the book and everything else they have at him. They'll make an example of him. He's going to jail for a long time. A long time. And the mainstream media, they're not reporting on the content of the documents. They're reporting on the incident, the leak, the arrest, and you're not getting the contents of the documents. This is a different deal than the Pentagon Papers. It's a different deal than the information that came out, through Julian Assange. It feels different too. The whole deal is different. This young lad, he's going to suffer. They're going to make sure that he suffers.
Greetings, brave mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals. Defenders of individual rights and freedoms. Credible. Trusted. Grounded in reality. Maverick News. Defending free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Okay, so yesterday, the Bank of Canada held the line on interest rates at 4.5%. government doesn't have much room to move. The Bank of Canada doesn't have much room to maneuver in its bid to rein in inflation. Today, the Prime Minister, we're just bringing things back north of the border for a short moment here while I just comment on this. We're going to get into other international stuff in a moment and U.S. news. But right now, Justin Trudeau addressing the economy and also the issue of foreign meddling in Canadian politics and the Canadian elections, and also cybersecurity. Cybersecurity. Well, what are we talking about with this? These leaked Pentagon papers? That's partly a cybersecurity thing too, and that information shared out through the internet, through social media platforms, originating, I guess, in 4chan, Gab, Discord. Those were the platforms that group that JackTeixeira was part of were mostly using. Well, today, here's Justin Trudeau taking questions at a news conference where he was, trying to make the best of a bad economy.
De la réconciliation, incluant la réconciliation économique, pour être de vrais partenaires pour les peuples autochtones de ce pays.
National security concerns.
Hi, Wayne Mantica from CTV, and a question from CTV. How many times did Ms. Telford discuss foreign interference with you during the last election?
The conversations I have with my chief of staff and with my entire government and with our defense and security experts are ongoing. We have been talking about foreign interference for years, which is why in 2019, in advance of the last election, we put in an unprecedented mechanism of senior civil servants and top security officials to monitor, for the first time in Canada's history, the issue of foreign interference in our elections. And that's how we can say and conclude, as they did after the 2019 and 2021 elections, that our elections integrity held, despite what we all know and what we've been talking about since 2015, ongoing attempts by countries like China, Russia, Iran, and others to interfere not just in our politics or our elections, but in our businesses, in our research institutions, and particularly interfere with diaspora communities here in Canada, who are always the first targets of pressure from those governments and need to be protected. So conversations with my chief of staff, with Katie Telford, on this subject, I have had many of them over long periods of times, over many years, because it's an issue that needs to be taken seriously.
Prochaine question.
It's Adam Hunter from CBC. A growing number of Canadian institution websites, now including Hydro-Quebec, have been taken offline by pro-Russian hackers. How concerned are you about this, and why do you think Canadian institutions are being susceptible to these attacks?
Obviously, Canada's unequivocally strong stance in support of Ukraine and against Russia's illegal actions is bothersome to the Russian government and to pro-Russian hackers. Obviously, we are not going to flinch in any way on our steadfast and total support of Ukraine and the cause for which it's fighting. Because it's not just fighting for its own territorial integrity, for its own people's right to choose their future, to protect their language, their culture, to protect their borders, their sovereignty. Ukrainians right now are fighting for the fundamentals of democracy, for the UN Charter, for the principles and values that underpin our country and so many others. That's why we stand with Ukraine. That's why, a couple of denial of service attacks on government websites, bringing them down for a few hours, is not going to cause us to rethink our unequivocal stance of doing whatever it takes for as long as it takes to support Ukraine.
Next question.
Troy Charles, Global News. The Trudeau Foundation has now said they'll have an outside investigation to review a donation from a Beijing-linked billionaire. Do you think the foundation has handled the issue properly?
You know, that's a question for the foundation. As people know, I haven't been involved in any way with the foundation that bears my father's name in about 10 years, and it continues to be that way.
Next question.
Hi, Jeremy Symes with the Canadian Press. You first promised in November 2017 that Canada would provide a 200-soldier quick reaction force to the UN for peacekeeping. Your government has now given itself until March 2026 to fulfill that promise. Will you speak honestly to the UN, member countries, and Canadians and say whether Canada will make good on this promise?
We continue to be a strong supporter of UN peacekeeping. Obviously, UN peace missions have evolved over time. Canada is deeply involved in a number of NATO missions, and we continue to work actively with UN partners and with the UN itself to ensure that we're there to support the important missions they do. We will continue to do that.
Prochaine question.
Monsieur Trudeau, Laurence Tachereau, Radio-Canada. Donc, votre équipe a affirmé ne pas avoir de temps que pour une brève rencontre avec le premier ministre Scott Moe. Est-ce que c'est suffisant pour parler d'enjeux importants comme les ressources naturelles? Et qu'est-ce que ça dit sur les relations entre Ottawa et la Saskatchewan? Et si vous pouvez répondre en français et en anglais, s'il vous plaît.
D'abord, je peux souligner que, comme on fait toujours, quand on s'en vient en quelque part, on offre une rencontre avec le premier ministre. C'est dommage qu'il n'était pas en ville aujourd'hui, donc on ne peut pas avoir cette rencontre, mais je vais continuer d'avoir des échanges productifs avec M. Moe sur bien des sujets. D'ailleurs, ma dernière visite, j'étais à Saskatoon en train de parler des investissements qu'on est en train de faire dans l'industrie minière pour résoudre nos défis de chaîne d'approvisionnement de la Chine, de la Russie et d'ailleurs. On sait qu'il y a des bons emplois ici au Saskatchewan qu'on va continuer de bâtir. Je vais toujours être là pour travailler avec le premier ministre Moe, que ce soit en matière de santé, que ce soit en matière de garderie, de petite enfance qui sont maintenant rendus à 10 $, ou que ce soit en matière de croissance économique. Alors, j'ai bien hâte de pouvoir continuer de travailler avec lui. I'm always happy to work with the Premier on issues that matter to Saskatchewanians, whether it's bringing childcare in at $10, whether it's making sure we're moving forward on health deals that are going to deliver family doctors, better mental health care, better data collection, better support for frontline health workers with close to $200 billion of investments on the federal level that, quite frankly, Scott was an important partner in driving forward from the conference of the Council of Federation side. When it comes to meeting with him on issues of economic growth, we're always there for that. My recent visit to Saskatoon to Vital Metals was all about ensuring that the rare earth elements that the world needs to move towards a cleaner energy future get mined and processed here in Canada, and particularly in Saskatchewan. These are things that we're all very excited about, and I always look forward to working with him, and it's a shame he wasn't in town today.
Next question.
Yeah, John Cairn, SAS Today. Question is, it's tax time. Revenue Canada, we're hearing a lot of concerns out there that the workers are going to go on strike. So I'm wondering if you could give us an update on that situation, and can you assure Canadians that their taxes and their tax refunds won't be impacted?
We obviously want to make sure we're doing everything we can to avoid a strike. That's why we're working hard at the bargaining table. We understand how important it is to work at the bargaining table to resolve these issues. That's where we're staying engaged. Look, public servants in this country have worked incredibly hard over the past years to deliver services and supports to families, particularly through the pandemic, that made a huge difference in the lives of families, in the lives of businesses, in the lives of communities across the country. And like all Canadians, they're facing pressures with a rising cost of living. It's good news that inflation seems to be stabilizing and on its way down, according to many economists. But we are, of course, engaged at the bargaining table, and will continue to do so in good faith and hopefully avoid the impact of a strike.
Prochaine question.
Don't count on it.
Hi, Lisa with CJME again. I'm looking to hear what you think of the Saskatchewan Firearms Act, which just passed last week, and particularly what it does that will make running a federal gun buyback in Saskatchewan more difficult.
We are committed to keeping Canadians safe from gun violence by continuing the prohibition on assault-style weapons while protecting the rights of hunters and farmers to have rifles and shotguns that they use for hunting, and so forth. These are things that are not incompatible. We know that there is no Canadian in this country who wants to see more gun violence. We also know that the approach to that needs to be multifaceted. We need to be continuing to strengthen things at the border. Just last year, we interdicted twice as many illegal guns as we had the year before because of investments at the border. We need to invest more in community safety and community policing programs. We need to support First Nations communities with First Nations policing as an essential service. We need to continue to do more on common sense gun control measures that respects hunters and fishers, anglers and sport shooters, while at the same time making it more difficult for people to access the kinds of guns that are regularly used in mass shootings in the United States and elsewhere around the world, and unfortunately have been used in Canada as well. These are things that we will continue to move forward on. We will work with jurisdictions who want to work with us where necessary, but we will fully assume federal responsibility over guns everywhere as necessary. Nous allons continuer notre
And
travail.
enough of JT. I don't know, man. I don't think inflation is under control. Not at all. It keeps on climbing. And the numbers they've been releasing, I don't think are accurate. You're seeing ongoing concern about the banking system. Yeah, they held the line on interest rates yesterday in Canada, but the head of the bank also made it very clear that if inflation continues to rise, they will raise interest rates further. We've got stagflation on our hands, folks, and that ain't a good thing. That's bad. That's really bad. They don't have much latitude. Here's Pierre Poilievre, leader of the official opposition, addressing the economy.
Permettons les gens de garder davantage dans leur poche. C'est le gros bon sens. Il faut ramener le gros bon sens chez nous. Thank you very much, and now in English. What's happening to our cities?
Oh, and safety.
After 8 years of Trudeau and his crazy coalition with the NDP, I'll tell you what's happening. Tuesday morning, Calgary, a victim shot dead on a bus. Shot on a bus, now in critical condition. 2 people taken into custody, another suspect at large. Tuesday afternoon, Calgary, police discover a corpse in a suitcase. Wednesday, Edmonton, police reveal that a 35-year-old, Gabriel Dumont, was shot to death in an apartment building. Wednesday afternoon, Edmonton, a teenage boy attacked in an Edmonton mall. The boy is now in serious condition. Wednesday night, downtown Calgary, a 20-year-old shot dead, another injured from gunshot wounds. This morning, right here in Edmonton, a 48-year-old man was randomly stabbed. He's in critical condition, suspect still at large. That is a normal day in an average Canadian city after 8 years of Justin Trudeau and the costly coalition with the NDP. Trudeau and the NDP have caused this crime wave with policies that allow the same repeat violent offenders loose on our streets to terrorize innocent people. Trudeau and the NDP have given us crime, chaos, drugs, and disorder. It is a simple cause and effect. You let the same violent people back on the street the same day they're arrested, they will do more violence. And that's why the data shows that when common sense conservatives were in power, crime went down 23%. When this coalition, this crazy coalition of Trudeau and the NDP have been in power, crime is up 32%. Simple cause and effect. And if you want the best statistical illustration of it, in Vancouver, the same 40 offenders were arrested 6,000 times. Let me say that again. The same 40 people arrested 6,000 times in a year. That's 150 arrests per offender per year. We don't have a lot of criminals in Canada. It's a very small number that do the vast majority of the crime. So here's Pierre Poilievre's common sense plan to bring home safe streets. In, catch, and release. And bring jail, not bail. Jail, not bail for repeat violent offenders. Ban hard drugs and stop giving out taxpayer-funded drugs. Instead, invest in rehabilitation and treatment, and sue the big pharmaceutical companies that cause the drug crisis so that we can recover billions of dollars to pay for that treatment. That way we bring home our brothers, our sisters, our friends and neighbors drug-free. This is a common sense approach that has proven to work. We can do it again. We're going to bring home safe streets for our people. And we understand that everything in Canada is broken after 8 years of Trudeau and the costly coalition. 40-year highs in inflation, 1 in 5 Canadians skipping meals because they can't afford the price of food. Some people going to food banks asking for help with medical assistance in dying, not because they're sick, but because they're too poor and miserable after 8 years of Trudeau and his costly coalition. We have 9 in 10 young people saying they'll never be able to afford a house in Canada. With all this land we have, we can't house our young people. It's crazy. And we see despair and tent cities where people are pouring out into the streets because they can't afford to live under the carbon tax and the inflationary policies of Trudeau and the costly coalition. So here's what the conservative common sense plan to fix that. I'll cap spending and cut waste in government to bring down inflation and taxes so hard work pays off with powerful paychecks that afford good food, a decent home, and a solid retirement. We're going to make work pay again. We're going to bring in smaller government and bigger citizens, allowing people to take back control of their lives in the freest country on earth. Our purpose is to bring it home. Bring home lower prices, bring home powerful paychecks, bring home safer streets, bring homes that people can afford, and bring home freedom for all Canadians. It's common sense. Let's bring it home. Thank you.
We have time for 5 questions. We'll open it up to the first question.
Hi there, I'm Paige Parsons with CBC. Several of the incidents you mentioned, their gun violence, and the public inquiry into the worst mass shooting in Canada's history is calling for stricter gun regulations. Their recommendations touch on cross-border gun smuggling and also restricting high-capacity firearms and ammunition. And would you support the government if they brought in some of the Commission's recommendations?
What we need to do is stop going after hunters and start going after criminals. The shooting that you referred to was done with smuggled guns, not legal firearms. So Justin Trudeau and the crazy coalition with the NDP want to ban hunters. But hunters aren't committing the crime. It's criminals who bring in smuggled guns from across the border. So here's my common sense plan. Instead of spending $5 billion buying back hunting rifles from law-abiding hunters, I'm going to put that money into reinforcing our borders to stop the flow of illegal guns coming from the United States, which are responsible for over 80% of the gun violence that occurs in this country. And I'm going to reinstate mandatory jail time for repeat gun criminals so that we take those criminals off the streets and put them behind bars where they can no longer do harm. And I would point out to the CBC one last thing that's very obvious to everyone but Justin Trudeau and the CBC, and that is banning hunting rifles will not stop knife crimes. I just listed a whole series of crimes that were committed with knives. Banning a rural hunter from carrying out a great Canadian heritage of the outdoors is not going to stop stabbings on the LRT system in Calgary or Toronto. Let's go after the problem and stop with the distractions. It's common sense. Let's bring it home. Yeah.
Can I get you to respond in French as well for my Radio Canada colleague? And just to clarify, so you don't support all of the commission's
I think I
findings?
just clarified, first of all, the commission is really an outrage. The way they ignored the victims of the crime that happened, and the way that they failed to take into account the facts on the ground demonstrate that Justin Trudeau and the Costly Coalition are going to continue to unleash this wave of violence and crime on our streets. They're going to continue to allow illegal guns to come across our borders to commit more massacres, and they're going to allow more and more crime and drugs in our streets. And I don't support any of that. Donc, moi, je crois qu'on devrait cibler les...
We'll just jump out of that for a moment. And yeah, I can tell you, he has a point. In all the years I worked as a beat reporter, covering a lot of police incidents, a lot of murders, it was the knife that was the weapon of choice most often in Canada. The majority of the murders that I covered were stabbings. It's true. Absolutely true. More ahead.
Greetings, brave mavericks. Our quest for truth continues. We go beyond fake news. Together we expose propaganda. Together we pull others out of rabbit holes. We are maverick thinkers. We are all unique individuals. Defenders of individual rights and freedoms. Credible. Trusted. Grounded in reality. Maverick News. Maverick News. Defending free speech. Free speech. Donate at freedomreporters.com. Do it now. Tomorrow may be too late. Maverick News. The world is watching. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Nobody's right when everybody's wrong. This is an issue that just seems to keep on coming back every day. The pronoun issue. The LGBTQ plus A, I don't even know all the letters and all that. It's also political and you know, when my dog misbehaves, I speak his language. I go blah, 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 blah. And that's how I feel right now. Just trying to deal with this ongoing conflict over the drag queen story time, the LGBTQ, the pronouns, blah, 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 blah. Every day now, every day. So today, the University of Windsor in Canada has come out with a new pronoun guide. It took them 2 years of work. No wonder I can't figure it out. they've taken something very simple, like, you know, did you see him today? No, I saw her today. I didn't see him. What did you talk about with him? I said, I would like to talk about this issue with her. What about them? Well, they said you should talk to her. But it, I just, oh my goodness. So, communication, media, and film and political science student Faye Quinn and Provost Dr. Patty Weir produced a comprehensive guide for instructors, students, staff, and those who visit the university. They say they wanted to give their community the right tools to be able to engage respectfully with each other and gain an understanding of the power of language in creating a safe, welcoming, and inclusive environment where everyone thrives. I don't know how to be respectful because I can't figure it out. I don't mean that in a disrespectful way. I can't figure it out. I'm too old. That's just all there's to it, man. I can't figure it out. They've taken something that was always pretty much, you know, straight up, and they've made it so complicated. I can't remember the letters in their thing, let alone what pronouns to use. What am I supposed to do? You know what I do? I just say hi and then leave it at that, so I don't make any mistakes. Or I use a first name, like if I know their name, like Frank or John or Moon Unit, whatever it might be. Although these days, Moon Unit would probably be pretty passé. It's like, oh, that's old school, man. You're old. No, man, Frank Zappa, don't you know what I'm talking about? Well, they've got a pronoun guide. So I guess they're going to just help everybody understand, and then you can get it right and be respectful. Well, they also produced a video, so I'm going to run some of it. So maybe we can understand better. Doubt it. I don't make these comments in a disrespectful way. I genuinely cannot figure a lot of this out. Some of it is I'm a she, her, okay. It's like when I was a kid in elementary school, they were teaching us how to conjugate pronouns in French. It was at such a young grade. I didn't even know what a pronoun was, but I was conjugating them. I feel like I'm in the same boat right now. What am I going to do? Here's the video.
Thank you for joining us today here at the University of Windsor, where we're going to talk about pronouns. So I'd like to first and foremost introduce myself and then all of you. I am Nick Rennick. I am a professor here at the University of Windsor. My pronouns are he, him. Sydney.
Yeah, so I'm Sydney. My pronouns are they, them, near, and I'm the education lead at Trans Wellness Ontario.
Thank you.
Can I go next?
Yeah,
Thank you. So I'm Derek Carl Bizzo. I go by Derek and Derek Carl. I use they, them, theirs pronouns exclusively, and really happy to be here today and get to have this conversation with everyone. Thank you.
My name is Kai. My last name is Quinn, and I use they, them pronouns.
Yeah. My name is Faye, and I use she, they pronouns, but now I'm leaning more towards they, them. But yeah, I am a communications and political science major here at the university. Today, I use they, them pronouns, check in every day. I am a concurrent education student here, and I was previously the Pride coordinator with the UWSA this past year.
Awesome. Nice. Welcome. Thank you, everybody. So I would like to begin by asking, what are pronouns?
Can I maybe jump on that one?
Yeah.
So in the simplest of terms, I thought about this earlier today. It's just a way to like describe someone or refer to them without using their name directly. So often, to keep ourselves from repeating ourselves too often, we'll use pronouns in their place.
Yeah. I really liked the first thing that you led off with, because in all of my research before of what pronouns are, my favorite answer is that it is in use of like a noun. It's a person. It's in reference to either you, I, or us, or they, or them, in a group of people. So it can be used as expression, but it can also be used as just simple reference, you know?
And I think in many respects, it's something that's taken for granted because it is often seen as so quote unquote natural. And we use pronouns in everyday language without even cognizantly thinking about what the politics or the social ramifications are behind them. And, you know, I think it's really important because it is so deeply ingrained in English, but even other languages like French, which is highly gendered, right? So that they actually shape the very ways of communication.
Kind of jumping on what you just shared there, could I maybe introduce our next question, which is about the importance of pronouns? You kind of talked about the like political and social ramifications, right? And I guess I'd like to offer the question before offering my own answer. If anyone wants to talk about why they think pronouns are important.
I think it's a matter of respect. And it's like, say, like for myself, I started using she, they pronouns because I just didn't feel like a woman. And now it's like, as the weeks goes on, like yesterday I had a conversation with a friend how like the more I evolve into my tenderness and my queerness, I want to use like they, them pronouns just because I want to exist outside that binary and other people validating and using my pronouns the way that I would like them to be used. It just, I don't know, it just solidifies my own like, oh, I'm seen.
I want to touch on something that you just pointed out, and I think it's really important. You said that it was validating. Why are pronouns validating?
I think it's in a way where like you go through so much self-discovery through like discovering who you are and like what suits you the best, what makes you feel more comfortable. I feel like that validates the pronouns. It validates like your self-discovery and like the journey that you go through as a queer person, of course. Yeah.
Very well said.
Yeah, I was nodding my head of like, yeah, right? Like affirming that sense of I've discovered myself.
Yeah.
Here's who I am. And someone else being given that opportunity to say, I see you. I see you the way you just described yourself.
Would you, for the sake of clarity, would you care to elaborate that and nuance, you know, what's the difference between coding and then being legible or having pronouns, right?
Yeah, totally. So that's a really good question. And I'll try to be brief in my remarks for the sake of our conversation. But I think like, you know, when someone codes me right, so they use they, them pronouns, right? They remember Derek Bizzo uses they, them pronouns and they get it right. That's a great experience. But when it's also followed up with, oh, but can you tell me more? And like, I don't really understand. And oh, I've never done this before. I'm so sorry. And this is really strange for me. That really makes it a very unvalidating or unaffirming experience, even though I've been coded right. And I think that one thing I've gotten into is just, you know, helping cisgender people recognize that they too have a gender journey. So I think that that's a part of it is just sort of more than just coding, but actually being on this journey in solidarity with everyone having the freedom to use whatever pronouns that they want to use.
Sydney, you use neopronouns. Where do you find the validation in that? Because I'm sure, as Derek had mentioned, you probably get asked more often than you care to about neopronouns, and you feel that ownership to explain. Would you mind elaborating a bit on that?
You know, like thinking it through and exploring, I found that like when people use she, her for me, it's like being dropped into a pit of hot lava. Not a great experience, right? When people use he, him, okay, I'm laying on a bed of nails. So again, really not the most comfortable thing. When people use they, them, all right, I'm like laying on the floor. So it's like not the most comfortable, but if I'm really tired, I can fall asleep on the floor. Whereas when people use my actual pronouns, they, them, it's like laying on a bed with my cat purring on top of me and like fluffy blankets, like the most comfortable and validating experience. And it just really clicked when I first saw they, them pronouns in February 2020. Because I was just exploring, I'm like, yeah, they, them's been okay, but like, I wonder if there's something better. So I was looking into different neo pronouns and found they, them, and that just felt really right. So I did some research into the history of the pronouns and found that the N stood for neutral, and I'm like, that's it. So for me, using neo pronouns is that affirming experience, and it's really challenging people to go beyond binaries of she, her, he, him, and reminding people that there are other options than they, them, that it's about what feels right for each person. And I don't want anyone to feel like they have to stick with any pronoun because it's more common or it's more well known, because you should be able to use whatever pronoun feels right. And if people don't get it, that's on them. That's not on you. You should be able to use any pronoun that makes you feel happy, that makes you feel like you're laying on that fluffy bed.
The analogy used was kind of nice to hear, because as going through this whole conversation, I was kind of thinking about how in my profession that I'm starting to enter, there isn't really a term that feels comfortable for me. Because like a lot of times you choose between like Miss, Mr., like you can use
mix.
Yeah, mix. But there's like also just being a teacher, some teachers will just use their last name or use different short forms that fit them. And when going through that, I kind of realized that like pronouns are a lot more than just, like gender and expression. It's also just something that you're going to hear every day. And like for me, I don't want to hear the same thing every day. I'm not the same thing every day. I've never been the same thing in my whole life. And to honor the way that I change and the way that I grow, being able to use pronouns and use different identifiers like teacher or maybe I want to be sir one day. Like I can walk in and have that authority and say, hey, like I would like to be called sir today. You can use they, him pronouns. And then the next day say, hey, I don't want to hear sir today. Please try to use teacher. I use they, them pronouns. And overall, you're met with so much love and respect. Which, yeah, I don't know. It feels like laying in a bed with your cat. Like I loved it, but yeah, I don't know. That's all.
One thing you mentioned, and I thought this was really interesting, you were talking about being static and then non-static, like we aren't static. And in fact, we're often encouraged, right, to keep growing as individuals. So why should pronouns be any different than to reflect that, that journey, as you've said, that growth, that discovery, as Sydney has disclosed. Faye, have you had any similar experiences, or how did you come to think about they, them? You mentioned that you were embracing your queerness, which I love to hear. What has that journey been like?
The way I hold myself is different now. It's like I can walk more confidently just because I used to be so scared of like self-expression. I always like dressing nice and like everything, but like I tend to go to extremes, like extremely feminine or extremely masculine. I don't know, but I feel like what I wear and how I express myself really aligns with that, how I feel that day. You know what I mean?
I think a lot of people who will view this video, and even maybe among ourselves, we hear the word cis a lot. What is it? What does it mean to be cis? I'm constantly thinking about that, and I have done the work, right? But it's also thinking about how mechanisms of power are operating through gender and through the way we gender people, and whether that's intentional as an act of violence and a way of putting someone down, or as a place of love. As you said, I've done the work, and yes, I am he, him, but it doesn't mean I don't see your neo-pronouns or see your alternative pronouns, or whatever you want to disclose it as, and realize though that there are consequences to people who do not fit within the neat organized boxes. Like I am legibly read as a man, and I identify as the sex I was assigned at birth, and there's a lot of privilege that comes with it. Now I am a gay man, and so I have experienced homophobia, but in the grand scheme of things, I've also realized that my conventional use of gendered pronouns has also benefited me in other ways. And it's something that I'm deeply cognizant of and especially respectful of, because there are plenty of people do not fit that mold, nor should they. And I think that's something we need to make sure that we're also not propagating or advocating for, is that there is a mold to fit, right? That in fact, we should actually be dismantling the mold and just allowing people to be who they are.
And how do I know what
And
to
I think
call
just to share
you?
what, or to jump on what you said and what you've said, Sydney, too, right? Like cisgender is just a descriptive word, right? For how someone sort of aligns within their sex and gender. Same as transgendered is a descriptive word, right? For the way a person has found their identity, perhaps as being a man or woman, or being, for myself, non-binary, right? And for cisgender people, right? It's just a word that I appreciate, you claim because it's a descriptive word appropriate for you. And you recognize it within a context of power, right? And history and so many social processes that hopefully compels us to then align ourselves with everyone who's seeking more freedom in this world from those norms that restrict all of us. So I think it's an important thing for people to kind of get more comfortable with, right? And I think that's part of why this panel is important and why I think this conversation is so important, is that we all are on our own gender journey. We're all oppressed by cisgenderism and heteronormativity. And the sooner we can see ourselves within that shared solidarity against that oppression and compulsion
That's a new one
to
for
be
me.
something that we perhaps aren't, right? Or to just loosen at least the binds, right, that are created within the exclusive binary of man and woman. Because that's where homophobia is rooted in, right? Is that we're blurring those lines. We're not fitting those boxes. And so we're made fun of, we're targeted, or we're even violated, right? People trespass against us and our human dignity.
And I just want to jump on to one of the points that Faye made earlier, where it's about not making sure that we're not censoring ourselves for the comfort of cisgender and heterosexual people. Because I know even times that I've done like media interviews or something like that for things like Trans Day Visibility or Trans Day of Remembrance, I'm always debating about what pronouns to use, because most likely I'm going to get misgendered regardless of which pronouns that I use. And that has been a common experience in articles or whatever else, is they'll use their own pronouns. But it's like, okay, do I want to use they, them for the chance that they might get it right? Because I know that they're not going to get they, them. Or do I want to use they, them to push for people to be like, okay, I need to actually do this work. And now I've been more leaning towards pushing for people to use they, them, not kind of like making excuses for cisgender and heterosexual people who haven't bothered to do the work. And it's like, yeah, you need to do it. And I'm not going to keep like censoring myself for your comfort, because it's important for my own experience, but it's also important for queer and trans people who are still exploring, who are still figuring things out, so that they know there are other options and that they can use whatever pronouns, and to see that reflected in like those role models within our community of people who are already using those pronouns and who are pushing the envelope and encouraging people to go beyond.
Yeah, I mean, it goes back to also that onus that you spoke of earlier in our discussion about, the expectation that you're going to explain yourself, and not having to put that on people, on anybody, but especially people who choose to use alternative or neo-pronouns or, anything outside of the quote-unquote cis norm. Kai, I wanted to ask you a question, though. I was really interested, as the youngest member of this panel, what has your own experience been as somebody who identifies they, them in high school?
I actually identify as an agender person who uses they, them pronouns. There's like a difference between like a they, them and like use they, them. For me in high school, right, there's a lot of opportunities for teachers and like friends, classmates to refer to you. And a lot of the time, I have a lot of gender dysphoria with being misgendered, being called the wrong pronoun. And I think recently when I've been meeting a lot more people, I've been having to really like explain like, hey, if you don't know what pronouns are, I would be happy to tell you, and you could practice using they, them pronouns on me, because I know you are very, like, being students, right, about like adolescent, like not even teens, they aren't able to actually think about these things unless they're actually like exposed to it in the first place. And especially with like the media in the world, there's not much education unless you have the incentive to like educate yourself on the topic. And for me personally, being a girl never fit me, and being referred to that, like, I know that being a girl doesn't fit me, and just being referred to that for like first like 15 years of my life, I've been like, this does not fit me. And so around the pandemic started, I've been like self-isolation and like just figuring out like who is the person that I see in the mirror, because that is not a girl. I don't see myself as a girl, and I'm also not a boy. So what am I? And so that took me on a extensive journey of like around 2 or so years of going, hey, this doesn't feel like it fits me anymore. What about this one? And I would first like, do research on it and figure out myself before like telling everyone around me. And that's been the case for, I went from she, her to she, they to they, she to they, them. And then I went from they, them to they, he, and then from they, he back to they, z, using neo pronouns. And I was like, that doesn't make me still, it is cool, but doesn't fit me. And so I've been going back to they, them recently.
Thank you for sharing that. That's truly, it's really interesting to see where, young adults are coming into the fold, so to speak, because I often see 18, 19-year-olds when I'm teaching at university, right? And I'm teaching fresh, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed undergrads. And they haven't been beaten down yet by fourth year. But it's really, really interesting, especially in one of my classes I teach, and it's a class that's near and dear to me, my queer activism class. And I know exactly Sydney and Faye have both had experiences in that class. But I make every effort I cis students to think about pronouns and think about how they engage with queer students in the class and as allies, and also as people who've benefited from certain privileges. But then what's that mean for queer people in the class, and thinking about their own journey and their relationship and these dialogue that establishes as a result. And, I think it's something that's an ongoing process. And the amount of students I get emails from, even ones that I'm like, okay, have been very cis identified and vocal about that, then going, you know what, I think something's up with this. And I'm like, it's like finally getting in on the camp sensibilities of like the artificiality of gender. And they're like starting to pick up on what does it all mean? And I'm like, that's a good question. That is a very good question. What does it all mean? But I guess one of the final questions I had for everybody is, where do you think the future of pronouns lie? What do you see as the next step? Do you think it's ideal? Would the utopic society be one where we don't have any pronouns, or everybody identifies with gender neutral pronouns? What do you see?
If I may, I also think this kind of pulls from what we were previously discussing, like both of you, the whole like need of, I think it was more said within the realm of high school, of how like you feel the need to educate the teens and all of that. I think in the perfect world, people of authority don't like shy away from pronouns, and they don't hide from pronouns, and they don't like refuse to use correct pronouns. Like teachers should be the ones teaching pronouns, and professors should be the ones teaching to respect pronouns. And when I'm going to workshops for LGBTQ plus things, and when I'm getting hired and getting briefed on health and safety and then on equity, I should then be asked my pronouns. And I think it's kind of sad. Like I could cry as a teacher hearing a student say that they feel responsible for that. And I think as a queer teacher, I could also cry about the fact that I feel responsible to do that, like to then walk in and have teachers above me, like completely misgendering me, trying to show me that you can write as a man or a woman, and trying to teach the next generation of students that there are these binaries and that you do need to fall into them. And I think that's the most destructive thing that our society can do.
Okay. So that's enough. So yeah, and I'm sorry, you actually, I guess technically you conjugate verbs, but you do it with pronouns. And you see how messed up they've got me since I was a kid, and probably a lot of you. Conjugate. Let's conjugate. French class. I barely ever figured that out. Now I'm sitting here listening to, what was it, nay, na, or something, nay, nay, nam, nay. And the one person, and I hope I used person correctly, I don't know, but said that they want to be called teacher. But isn't teacher a noun? That's not a pronoun. Is it? I don't know how to deal with this. I say that with respect. I honestly, even after watching that, I'm more confused now than ever after having watched that. And that's supposed to be a guide to pronouns, proper use of pronouns in this new era. I am really confused. And they get to change, like you can change it like at will. It feels like a trap. You're being disrespectful. You're not using my proper pronouns. Well, you changed them. Or am I missing something? I don't get it. I'm all about, like, do whatever you want, okay? I don't care, really. Just don't get mad at me if I screw it up. Or if I just choose to use other words because I don't understand. All I can do, just so all those folks know, is I'm just going to do my best to not get people upset and to just be respectful and live my life. And they can do whatever they want, and I'll be tolerant of that. And hopefully they can be tolerant of me in my ignorance and in my set ways. I don't know what else to do because I don't know how to turn nouns into pronouns and start using words that I've never even heard of before as pronouns in order to be respectful of people who say that they're going to at some time change their pronouns at will without notification. And if you use the wrong, this blows my mind. This is why other people get upset. This is why everybody's fighting. Stuff doesn't make sense. And there are courses that they teach in this, and they spent 2 years coming up with that. It took them 2 years. And then the head dude, ooh, is dude wrong? He says, what is cis? I hear that all the time. And that guy is asking that question. Now, maybe he already knew. Maybe he knew the answer before he ever asked the question, but it sounded like he was genuinely trying to figure it out himself in a video that's supposed to help us understand how to use the pronouns. Wow. I don't know what to do except just, you know what? Just do whatever you want. And try not to get upset with me when I screw it up, because I guarantee you I'm going to screw it up. And that's not about being disrespectful. It's not about being anything. It's just, I don't get it. I don't get it. That's the bottom line. I don't get it.
Maverick News. The world is watching.
The New World Order. Government overreach. The Great Reset. Mainstream media lies. Now more than ever, independent voices are needed. Donate now at freedomreporters.com. That's freedomreporters.com. Maverick News. The antivirus program for your mind.
I'm back, and so is Digidog. Digidog is back. Now, when I was a kid, I used to watch Deputy Dog cartoon. Boy, I'm showing my age. But Digidog, that's not old school, it's new school. We've shown you these Boston Robotics canines before. Well, in New York City, they're actually going to start using them and other robots. They say they can save lives. They scare the living daylights out of me. Here they are.
The NYPD was among the first police departments in the world to implement fingerprinting and mugshots. New York was the first city to widely adopt the 911 call system for emergencies. We realized the potential of computing to store, track, and analyze crime data. From hand-gathered crime data to CompStat, from call boxes to smartphones, the NYPD has always stepped forward. In every era, we have maximized public and officer safety through emerging technology, and that approach continues today. But we know that technology is just a tool, and it is only as effective as the person or people using it. There is a human being behind and responsible for every mechanism that we use. That is our approach to any technological implementation, including the public safety tools being introduced today. Today, we are announcing 3 new policing technologies in New York City: the K5 autonomous security robot, the Spot Digidog robot, and the Star Chase GPS attachment system. Both the Star Chase system and the K5 robot will be deployed as a pilot, which we will discuss further. We want the public to know that the use of these technologies will be transparent, consistent, and always done in collaboration with the people that we serve. And as with every NYPD initiative, we will continuously evaluate their use and impact on our city. Our job is to fight crime and keep people safe. And these tools are significant steps forward in that vital mission. I will now turn it over to Mayor Eric Adams.
Do I need to talk? I think the commissioner, she always never ceases to amaze me, and her clear articulation on what we need to move our police department forward. And, you know, I've stated this from day one, even when I was on the campaign trail, I'm a computer geek. And I believe that technology is here. We cannot be afraid of it. And as the commissioner stated, transparency is the key. And the 2 pilots that we are rolling out today to see how they fit in our public safety environment is matched with the DigiDog, a robotic dog that could be used to save lives. It was something that was introduced previously under the previous administration, and a few loud people were opposed to it, and we took a step back. That is not how I operate. I operate on looking at what's best for the city. And the 3 we are mentioning today is only the beginning. We are looking at the new forms of public safety. I have put Deputy Mayor Banks and our entire Matt Frazier, my Chief Technology Officer. We are scanning the globe on finding technology that would ensure this city is safe for New Yorkers, visitors, and whomever is here in this city. This is the beginning of a series of rollouts we are going to do to show how public safety has transformed itself. And I think the commissioner laid it out correctly. Imagine the pushback. When I read about the first time fingerprinting was put in place, 9/11 system was put in place, CompStat was put in place. If we were not willing to move forward and use technology on how to properly keep cities safe, then you will not keep up with those who are doing harmful things to hurt New Yorkers. If it wasn't for our camera system that you see throughout the city, we would not have made the apprehensions on some of the most dangerous people in the city and state.
Okay. You got the idea. Let's take a look at the Digidog itself, shall we? Digidog, where are you? Here you are, buddy. Okay. Bring lots of treats. Oh, he dances. Oh, isn't he so cute? And then there are these dudes too. They look like the Daleks. Doctor Who comes to New York.
Counterterrorism incidents and others.
Oh boy. I'm afraid. That creeps me right out. Wow. They're really doing it. And just yesterday, I think it was, there was that report, maybe it was the day before, that said that an artificial intelligence system had planned the destruction of humanity. It's already happening. You combine that with those things, and we don't stand a chance, man. What is it with human beings? We make these science fiction, we make up these stories, then we make movies, blockbusters, like Terminator, that foretell the future. We know what we're capable of doing to ourselves. And then we unleash the unspeakable horrors anyway. And then we sit back and say, gee, I wonder why that happened. Why do we do this? It blows my mind. Truly, truly blows my mind. Don't get it. But we do it anyway. Okay. Do not go away. Yesterday, I said I was going to run a thing about catalytic converters. I didn't get a chance to do it. I'm going to do it now because it's hilarious. I think it's hilarious. Don't go away.
Fear not the storm. For truth is on our side. Maverick News. The world is watching. Maverick News. The world is watching.
Okay, so this was sent to me. Do you know what a catalytic converter is? It's a pollution control device that's in your exhaust system on your car, right? Anyway, it reduces pollution, basically, is what it does, because it increases the temperature and it makes sure that all of the fuel is properly combusted, burned properly, and it reduces the toxins that come out of the tailpipe, the really noxious stuff. Not carbon dioxide. That doesn't kill you. It's the toxic stuff that it burns off. Anyway, it's a part on your car. That's basically what you need to know. It's called a catalytic converter. Well, this was sent to me, and it's funny. It's funny. I'm going to run this. I was going to run this yesterday, and I didn't get a chance. Here we go. Hang on. Note that didn't want that. Too many tabs open. Here we go. All right.
My car's making a noise, and I brought it to the shop. So the mechanic come look at it. So he's out there looking at it. I'm waiting inside, and he comes back. He goes, he said, "Your Cadillac converter. I think that's the problem." And I look at him. I'm like, I have a Nissan Sentra. I have a Nissan Sentra. I don't have a Cadillac. Did you look at the right car? And he just gave me this look like, the fuck is wrong with you? He goes, "No, sir. It's a part of your car. It's the Cadillac converter." I said, "I don't know what you mean. I don't have a Cadillac. I have a Nissan Sentra, and you can't convert a car. Like, that's unheard of. You can't convert my Sentra to a Cadillac." And then I looked at him and I said, "What is this? Some type of conversion therapy? What are you, a Mormon?" I said, "I don't know if you know what you're doing, so I just want my keys, and I'm gonna leave. I don't want to deal with this. I don't think you know what you're doing." So I take my keys, I take my car.
There are car people, and then there are people who are not car people. It's just, oh, and for in case you know that there are precious metals in those things, in those catalytic converters, and there are people who steal them because they're worth a lot of money. Just so you know, if you see somebody walking down the street with a battery-powered Sawzall, that's generally the way they do it. They take those things, crawl underneath, cut them off, and escape, and take your Cadillac converter with them. Anyway, pretty funny. Hang on a second here. We're going to go to the phones. Don't go away.
The New World Order. Government overreach. The Great Reset. Mainstream media lies. Now more than ever, independent voices are needed. Donate now at freedomreporters.com. That's freedomreporters.com. Maverick News. The antivirus program for your mind. The New World Order. Government overreach. The Great Reset. Mainstream media lies. Now more than ever, independent voices are needed. Donate now at freedomreporters.com. That's freedomreporters.com. Maverick News, the antivirus program for your mind.
Sorry, folks, we're having some computer issues. Hang on, I've just about got the phone system fired up. Let's see if this video runs properly with the phone number. See if we can get that to work.
Join the conversation. Call 1-833-975-3733. That's 1-833-975-FREE. Speak up. Speak out. Make your voice heard. Maverick News. Fighting for freedom by defending your right to free speech. Be a Maverick. Join us.
Okay, I'm back, and we are ready to rock and roll. And we have people lined up, stacked up. Here we go. I'm not sure who this is. Hello, who do we have on the line?
Hello.
Hi there.
I know not. I
I don't. I'm afraid to speak because I fear I may offend you.
Oh, God help us all.
Yes.
Oh,
I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid of anybody. I don't care what their sexual orientation is, but I'm very afraid of the language.
Oh, God. I
don't know what to do either.
Oh, my Lord. I mean, I'm utterly, like, honestly, the fact that this is what's happening in a university. Oh, it hurts my head. It hurts my
not
heart.
Nonsensical. It really, to me, it is.
I don't know if you can tell, but I don't even have words, let alone friggin' pronouns.
Yeah.
I'm not being disrespectful, but
yes.
How did we get so off the rails, messed up? I mean, all I keep thinking is, forget the smart cities. Let's get some islands with rainbows and put all these pronouns on one spot and let them have at her, because the rest of us we're doomed. I just don't get it.
It's like the Tower of Babel, isn't it? It's like it.
It doesn't even seem real. Like, is it real, Rick? I mean, is that for? I mean,
honestly,
this is what's happening to our.
And when I watch that video, they don't even have a real grip on it. They're asking.
No, they keep changing it. They keep changing it. Just when I started to go, okay, I guess I kind of get it. And then all of a sudden it's like, but if I don't feel this way, today I'm going to be a this and a that and the other. Like, oh, for the love of God. Like, you know, I'm sorry. I'm honest, and no, I'm not sorry. I'm old school. And like Trudeau can say it a million times and say that Canada has no culture. I came to the realization, and full on today, like I hit a brick wall because we had a culture.
Yeah.
We did.
Yeah, we did.
And it was a pure, clean Canadian culture, you know, meat and potatoes, wholesome. They might have thought it was boring, but I'm telling you, we had a culture. But now, because he's saying we had no culture, he's made us a blank slate to paint every freaking rainbow from every country onto the culture we had, and it's being wiped out ceremoniously from every corner. That I want simple again. I want our culture back. I want the simple man, woman. You go to church, you don't go to church. You know, you believe in war, you don't believe in war. Just the simple basics, man. Like, what happened? How did we get so messed up? You know, and then, you know, we've got, Jagmeet Singh. Holy cow. Like, he was in the parliament wearing a sword. What? Oh, because it's his religion. Well, like, things are getting really, you know, we've got so many different cultural gangs that we never had, that if you step on their rainbow, heaven forbid, we're screwed. We're gonna get macheted, or I don't know. I mean, my brain is turning to mush with all of this stuff. I just want to be able to go to the grocery store and say, hi, you know, hello, sir, or thank you, sir, ma'am, whatever, and without getting assaulted or being accused of not being respectful. I mean, how did we get this far?
That's the tragedy in all of this, isn't it? It's because they've been pushing through with all of this, because Trudeau is saying things like, we have to move beyond tolerance, and you know, and what's the end result of this? We have everybody fighting. It's we're getting the exact opposite of what we are supposed to be working toward, which is to be able to live in harmony with each other. And instead we have everybody at each other's throats. I don't want any part of it. I just leave me out of this.
I don't either. Me too. Yeah. Like, I want to be able to go to it. I want to be able to go to a show and enjoy it and not have to worry about, you know, someone accusing me of looking at someone sideways or just out of shock because it's something I've never seen before. Innocent as it is. I mean, they've turned everything into I feel like I'm in a madhouse, like a global madhouse. And I don't even, wow, you know, I used to, rainbows growing up was always my favorite. I love them. But now it's just like I go to cross the street and I'm crossing a new friggin' rainbow. Like, I'm over the top with it. I you know, like, I tried my best. And after just watching what was supposed to be some serious discussion in a university that took them 2 years.
Yeah, that blows my mind.
These are the generations. Yeah.
2 years.
These are the generations that we have coming up that are going to be the ones somewhere down the road, if we get past, you know, the war mess that we're dealing with now, these are the people that are going to be making those decisions in 20 years. Oh my God.
Lord help us.
Like, we think we got problems with, you know, Zelensky and stuff when we've got these up and comings.
Like,
wow.
I ran that video because I thought maybe, and I'd only seen the first bit as I previewed it before the broadcast, but I thought, we'll run it and maybe I can help me figure out what the heck they're talking about. And I'm more confused from that than I was before.
You know, I thought I was safe, you know, just kind of ignoring it and whatever. But the fact that they've gone that far and did a study, and now they're, you call me teacher, call me he, call me her, call me
or whatever what the thing was. I didn't even, what was that?
Mama, I didn't, what?
Ma'am?
I don't even know what that was. I
Made
mean,
up
my
words?
eyes by the end of that, yeah. I mean, and yet they all sat around this table with their knowing nods and going,
yes. I understand. I understand. Oh, yes.
Yeah, and I'm like, what?
It doesn't even make sense to them.
It's not even. Oh boy, we're in so much trouble.
This is
We're
this
just
is
in
very
so much
Orwellian,
trouble.
They're sitting around acting as though they all understand, and you know what? I don't think they do.
I don't think so either. I mean, the brainwashing, the level of brainwashing that's happening right now is just mind-boggling. I had no idea the levels that there are. And even just, a dear friend of mine, said that they were sick on the weekend and they were cold, think they had a cold and whatever. And I hope you feel better. Oh yeah, no problem. I had to go get groceries, so I wore a mask to keep everyone safe. And I'm just like, I've known her for 40 years, and Rick, wow. I don't want to lose any friends through this madness. It doesn't change the fact that somewhere underneath all this, there are good human beings behind all of this, but they are so,
people are
influenced.
suffering from some crazy kind of mental illness out there. It's
like, I swear, exactly.
That is the true
like
epidemic.
The mask. It is. And I don't know, did you see this on Twitter today? And I was like, this is what I woke up to, because, I do make a habit of checking my phone when I wake up. And the first thing I see is this big picture of a woman with this big N95 mask on. And it was trending on Twitter first thing in the morning, of them proudly saying, we're not putting you at risk, and I'm doing this for the love, because I love everybody, and I'm not selfish, and I'm like, oh my God, shoot me now. Are we back at this again? Because did they not just in the States finally, or here, I guess, finally said that the mandates on masks have been removed?
Yes. Biden ended the emergency.
Yeah, just like that, at the flip of a switch.
He announced it was going to be over Easter. And so
he's got the Midas touch, apparently. Yeah, he's got the Midas touch over God. So, and all of a sudden, the ones that are left still believing the narrative of the mass and now the pronouns and Lord help us all of that. They unite online, to try to keep the mass thing going. I'm like, oh God, shoot me now. It might make me snap, and you're going to find me dancing in the streets naked with a mask on that's got a rainbow painted on it. Honestly, this is getting, that's a terrible idea. But like, how the rest of us going to stay sane when we are getting so bombarded with such insanity? To me, it's insanity. I just, honestly, wow. How did we get this far, and how are we going to dig ourselves out of it? Right? Like, how are we going to find our way on the other side of this one?
I don't know.
It's like the Branch Davidians run amok worldwide now, and they're the aggression behind it too. Wow. Boy.
This really does illustrate the point that I'm made is that there is like this mass mental health epidemic. It's a problem, and it's just changed the majority of people. It really has.
Yes. Unfortunately. And for those of us that see things a lot clearer, it's getting harder and harder to navigate just your day-to-day life, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but I'm finding it harder and harder to navigate just going out my door and getting groceries or whatever, like just the simple things out there now, because there's just so much, wow, like, woo, makes you just not want to even do it.
And see, through the pandemic as well, public trust, the people's trust in public institutions and government, in media, in everything, it's been either eroded or in some cases completely destroyed, which also leaves people very vulnerable to other ideas, not all of which are valid or worth, and some of them just downright misleading. It takes them down, honestly, rabbit holes too, makes them very susceptible and vulnerable to that stuff, right? Because it's like, I can't trust the government, I'll go the other way. Yeah, but the other way is crazy too.
Yeah.
So like I've said before, we've got
There's got to be a balance.
We've got a government that's run by crazy people. We've got other people over here who are crazy. You got another group of people over here who are crazy. And all the crazy people are saying, come over to our side. And people are flocking to this crazy group and that crazy group and that crazy group. And there's craziness all over the place. And it's screwing with people's heads.
It is. And it's very worrisome, and I just took a look at the chat, and I think people are misunderstanding, and they're trying to tell me that my mental health is nothing wrong with my mental health. I'm just expressing, reacting to madness, and my mental health is just fine. Thank you very, very much.
I have to look in the mirror every day right now, though, because I'm exposed to so much weirdness through doing this.
I know.
And I have to look and I go, okay, is this real? Are you real? What's real?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, we have to sort of keep ourselves on an even keel. And, and at the same time, you do have to find humor where you can. And sometimes it's getting harder and harder to find the humor without being accused of Lord knows what. But, seriously, there is reason to be concerned, because we've got one or two generations coming up the pike now that they don't know if they're a man, if they're a woman, they don't know what to call themselves, what pronoun to use. We've got so much stuff to worry about coming up the pike after how many years of, our fathers and grandfathers that fought in wars to save our sanity and our freedoms and stuff. And we're just watching it all unravel before our eyes, and at every turn on every kind of subject you can want to talk about. It seems like, holy hell, right? Or am I wrong?
No, I think you're right. And all I can say, and all I'm really trying to do here every night, because it is madness, and I'm just trying to point that out. It's madness. So my hope is that we can just not fight with each other. That's my
exactly
message. Okay, it's just like,
yes,
please,
100%.
Let's not
exactly. I agree.
Let's not hate each other. Let's not fight. Let's just right.
Exactly. I mean, and calling people names or bullying each other in any way just because somebody's emotional, calling them a crier, or just because whatever, all of that kind of stuff, that's just making things worse and diminishing people in ways that's completely unnecessary. We got to just shake it off and keep things clear. And if somebody's having an emotional moment, be supportive. And if you can't be supportive, ignore it. Don't diminish them further by calling them names and calling them a crier or whatever. That's just wrong. Be good to each other. be solid, because we're all we got. Like the people that are thinking clearly, and they're becoming fewer and fewer. And honestly, like, you know, we just gotta be solid together and respect each other. And if you, like the old adage, me growing up, I was told, if you got nothing good to say nothing at all. Sometimes you just gotta, you know, there is a time and a place. And being respectful amongst each other is super important. And because we're watching so much disrespect out there right now, it just being thrown around, just from the government to corporations to, I mean, we've got, you know, now another, I didn't even know Trudeau had another brother, by the way, but apparently another brother who's in the thick of all this, you know, Chinese meddling in Pierre Elliott Trudeau's. I mean, there's just so much stuff going on. Like, there's so much corruption and stuff. And if we don't stick together and be good to each other and not judge each other, be judgmental amongst each other to top it all off, all will be lost. We have to keep it together, you know? And yes, it's frustrating watching all this stuff. I mean, you know, watching that tape, the university thing, that was it for me. It just made my eyes cross, and it's moved.
Your tax dollars,
you know.
Listen, we're going to move on.
Right?
We've got people stacked up here, but thank you very much for
the
call. Always a pleasure. Thank you.
Good. You have a good night.
You too.
Okay. Bye.
Okay, go ahead. Do your intro.
Stop the mouth to the south, the man without a plan to master all disasters. Can you hear me good, Rick?
I can.
You can, okay, because I got some new technology on my head today. I finally opened up my birthday gift at work, and one of the kids set it up with Bluetooth headphones.
Oh.
Seemed to be working pretty good. I can hear you.
Yeah.
I've come to the conclusion there's a lot of stupid fucking idiots in this country. Okay? Now, there's going to be a lot of people getting into jams when you go to identify somebody and you don't know how to identify them.
Yeah.
So my best bet would be to ask, how do I identify you?
I guess.
And that's going to create a lot of issues. You know, am I wrong for saying I'm not going to call you he, she, or she, he, or whatever you want me to, whatever you are today, because you're changing like a chameleon daily. So what do I call you? And once somebody says, what do I call you? That's when people are going to take offense, and there's going to be mixing and tangling going on wherever you are. Right. So, you know, I don't get it. And that study happened in Windsor, in my hometown. Why did they call me?
I don't know.
They should have called the ball from the south. That would have straightened everybody out. As for Trudeau, he hasn't touched his father's foundation in 10 years. He's so full of shit. Okay, that's the Trudeau Foundation. That's his family name's foundation. He has nothing to do with it in 10 years. Makes me sick, Rick. All the lobbying that goes on. And, you know, just for example, in Montreal 10 years ago, the Charbonneau Commission, I think 15, 20 years ago, the Charbonneau Commission, when the mafia had their hands in everything, the roads, the buildings, everything that was going on, okay, they had a piece of it. And it was more or less lobbying what goes on in Ottawa with suitcases full of cash.
Yeah.
Now, the mafia was running no different than what the government, not just the Liberals, every one of our governments since lobbying started, okay? People come to them, okay, and they push the suitcases full of cash for their own agenda at the end of the day, right? And if it's the right amount and everybody likes it, their agenda's pushed through. Okay, it's illegal. Should be illegal 100%. It's no different from the mafia, what they were doing in Montreal and Toronto and every city across the nation. Okay, sad, buddy, sad. We're at some crazy times, I'll tell you, Rick.
That is.
In these, it's crazy. It's you know, I'm burying myself in work, buddy. Like I was messaging with you at 4:00 in the morning last night.
Yeah.
Okay, now, you know, 13-hour shifts times 4. I already have 56 hours by the end of today, and it's only Thursday.
Wow.
And I can work 7 days a week. But since it's 91 degrees outside, I'm barbecuing. Just had a barbecue going here for the guys at work. And tomorrow I'm going to do steaks. If I show up for work tomorrow, that is, because if it's nice out like today, I'm going to do a Facebook Live or a YouTube Live of me in the Detroit River on my jet skis.
Oh,
and that's pretty good for April, the middle of April, not even the middle of April.
yeah. Well, the water might
I'll
be a
be
little
there.
chilly, but the air is certainly warm. Man, it
I'm
was
fine with that. You know,
summer today, baby. I'll tell you, it was a beautiful, beautiful day.
it's beautiful. And if tomorrow's anything like today, I'm not coming to work. Guarantee you on that one. And I'm launching my jet ski, and I'm going to go over to Detroit. I'll do some filming over there, which would be fun.
Yeah.
Sent my wife and my kids, actually, my daughter, the one that was ejected from the States 2 weeks ago for not having that the Kool-Aid. She went across the States last night.
Oh, yeah.
With my wife and my daughter and her boyfriend. They went over to this restaurant, seafood place out in St. Clair Shores.
Mm-hmm.
And they had a blast. They sent me pictures and everything. So, Dad, I'm not allowed in the States. I said, well, we'll get you over. I said, listen, if I cross to the United States, honestly, Rick, I'm not coming back. And I don't mean from detention. I mean, if I get across, I'm not coming back. Period. I'll be down in Florida working for my buddy's construction company, making big bucks in U.S. dollars. I will not come back. That's why I won't cross. I can cross the border. I can walk across the border. I can take a boat across the border. Take my jet ski, leave it on the shore, just live the rest of my life. I know if I step on that shoreline, I'm not coming back to Canada, folks. Period. That's how much I really like my country. It's gone to the shits and the whole world sees it, buddy.
Yeah.
And what can we do? You know, we got corruption at all levels, man, from municipal right up to the federal government. Okay. There's corruption everywhere that we see. And as soon as you make noise about it, you're the bad guy. Now, that guy who leaked those in the States there, who leaked the, what was it? What did he leak?
The Pentagon
We don't even know.
documents. Yeah, like they're out there.
We don't even know what he leaked. Okay. So he leaked something. That kid's a hero. Period.
Mm-hmm.
For saying that the U.S. troops are fighting in the Ukraine. That's something that the people should not know. I think the people have a right to know that. You know, if my brother, who's a military guy, was in the Ukraine and the government said, oh, it's hush, 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 secret, don't tell anybody. And I found out about it. I'm telling everybody where my brother is.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want him in the Ukraine. You know, so it is what it is. With that being said, Rick, get to your next caller, everybody. Thank you.
Yeah.
Have a good day, Rick.
Thanks, Leo. See you, man. Okay, and we have up next, is it Raphael?
Yes, that's me. Rick, thank you for taking my call. One thing I have to say is I am pretty happy with what is going on right now, because at first I was worried sick, but now I feel like this is the beginning of the end, because when I see what happened in that, when I see what is happening right now, it seems like the people start rising up against all that nonsense. Because I can take, for instance, you know, like I live in Vermont, like one of the most liberal upside down society. But last week, a women basketball, high school female basketball team, they're supposed to play a final, and there was like a transgender on that other team.
Mm-hmm.
They forfeit the game. That means the team said, we're not playing, and the coach was like, I'm not gonna let my girl play with we don't care about the game, and they put pressure on them. They told them that they're gonna take sanction where they may not be able to play next year, and all the parents, everybody, they said fine with us, we're not playing, and they did not play. And I believe, that's a sign that something is happening. And whether we like it or not, DeSantis, the thing is doing down in Florida. Yes, people are talking about like it's nonsense, everything, but the fact that he has that courage and is doing those things, I mean, I went back and I checked. Teddy Roosevelt was the exact same way. They were saying the exact same thing about Teddy. And whether we like it or not, Teddy did really destroy the monopoly. And nobody thought Teddy could have done it. And I go back and I check. These two, DeSantis and Teddy, they have one thing in common. DeSantis is not a stupid guy. He's a very well-educated dude. So educated people, they can explain. They know why they are doing what they are doing. And I feel like I kind of feel good. And to conclude, if you go back in Paris, what is happening in Paris is not the adult, it's the kid, the youth. And people say, "Oh, it's all about the pension." No, it's not about the pension. It's a slew of stuff. I mean, they tackle that company, which is responsible for half of those crazy nonsense new idea, the work stuff, and the kids, are really standing up, and the government cannot get them back in. They will not accept. They will come out until they get what they want. And I don't know. I mean, I feel pretty good about what is happening because I feel like we are witnesses a Babylonian moment. We weren't there, if that miracle really happened. But I think, we just see how that took place because little by little, things are falling apart and they don't know what is happening. And we can even add Putin. I'm not into Bible or stuff like that, but whether we like it or not, this guy, it's some kind of divine intervention because how did the guy standing up by himself manage to get 153 million people behind him 100%, and the fight, the West, we are all fighting against him, and we are all running out of everything, weapon. I mean, people. It's a weird thing. I mean, I'm not saying like it's a miracle, but there is something divine in what is happening over there. So thank you, Rick, for every night, for you to stand up, like and pretty much is one of the few show society have, where people can feel at the end of the day, like me personally, I come and I listen and I'll be like, okay, there are people like me who doesn't feel that way, people who understand what is going on. And I believe 20 years, 100 years from now, people will be writing article about you, what you did, because every night you come in a calm fashion way, and then you let people express their feeling, their frustration. I mean, and you're not like, and the good thing about you, you're not really bombastic like Rush Limbaugh, like those kind of people. I mean, you kind of calm and just sit there and everybody just tag along with you. Thank you very much, sir. Bye-bye.
Well, thank you for the kind words. I just do my best like everybody else. I'm just a small squeaky voice in a great big metaverse. Okay, here is I think it's Sandy. Is it Sandy or Andy?
Hi, Rick.
Oh, no, it's Sandy. Hi, how you doing?
I'm good. It's Sandy.
Yeah. Welcome back.
So your last caller, the lady caller, I agree with her.
Okay.
What is going on?
if I understood what was going on, I wouldn't be sitting here scratching my head tonight. I don't know. I don't understand.
I know.
Like
I know.
said,
I
just-
scratch my head like every day. I'm
just-
like, what? So what is going on? Like,
madness.
I saw
every day.
I saw the table in the university earlier, and she called in, and I'm so glad she called in because I can relate to her.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's ridiculous. Like,
Well, it just doesn't make, I can't figure it out. So
I can't either anymore. And like, okay, the dude that was arrested today, he was 21 and he's going to prison.
oh, he'll go to prison, all right. Yeah. For a long time.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to say.
Long time.
Sorry to say, but that's going to
Let's
happen.
see some. Yeah. Well, it may take a while, but he'll get there.
Oh, he's there right now, and he's not coming out.
Okay, good. I got the name. I wrote it down, but you know what? I won't say the name, but anyway. So, like, this lady caller you had in earlier, I like her. She speaks well. She's very good. And I agree with a lot of what she said.
Well,
So the
yeah.
table that I was watching earlier, do you know who the professor was?
Oh, I can't remember his name. It was,
Okay.
let me see if I can look it up here in my notes. I can't remember the guy's name.
It's okay, no worry. But you know what? I was appalled. I watched it and I was appalled because who is allowing this garbage? This GBQT garbage?
Well,
I'm not falling for it.
yeah, for me, it's not about the sexual orientation. It's not about any of that. It's this language stuff. It
language.
literally
It's
makes no
words.
sense to me. I'm
It's
sorry, I can't figure it
literacy.
out.
It's literacy. It's words. And you know what? Our children, they're in trouble.
They're in trouble. I'm in trouble. I'm too old. I can't change. I can't do that.
I don't want to change. I'm a woman. I'm woman, hear me roar. So, like, I don't want to change. But you know what? Like, my family, we don't agree with it. It's complicated. It's a complicated issue, and it's very complicated right now. But you know what? In the long run, at the end of it all, we're going to know about it. It's coming out, and it's going to come out soon.
Sorry, what's coming out?
The truth about it. The truth is going to come out soon.
About what?
Transgender and
What?
gender and this and
What's the truth?
the truth.
Yeah, what do you mean the truth is going to come out?
The truth is going to be like, I am this and I am that, and if they don't like it, that's too bad.
Okay. I don't know exactly what
I don't like
means,
it.
but okay, you don't like
I
it.
don't like.
All right. Well, as far as I'm concerned, you are free to not like it. And they can be free
don't
to
like
use
it. I
whatever
hate
pronouns
it.
they want. And I should be free to just stay over here and avoid the whole thing so that I don't get myself into trouble. And I'm already in trouble
You know what?
just by
They need
staying
to
out of
stay
it.
over there. They need to stay over there at their university and use their pronouns and whatever, because what I saw, what I witnessed today on your show, I was appalled and it was disgusting because I'm not tolerating it.
What are you not tolerating? The language
I don't
or
like the fact, well, I don't like the fact that they're bringing politics into it. I don't like the fact that these women are trying to be men and the men are trying to be women because it's not right.
I see.
It's not
Well-
normal.
Well, Sandy, let me put it to you this way. You're never going to change that. You're never going to change them,
I
and
know.
they're not going to change you. They're not going to change me.
know.
And I think the best we can do is just accept that that's the case and be tolerant of it. And just realize
I
too that,
know.
you know what? They're way over there and you're over there and they're not bothering
Yeah.
you. And as long as you don't bother them,
No.
then there's no issue. And just leave each other alone.
Well, if
then,
they do bother me, then I'm going to do something about it.
right. Right. So,
But you know what, Rick? I'm
Yeah.
going to say this once.
yeah.
I live in the area, and you were talking about the rainbow flag the other night.
Well, I don't think
And
I
there's
was,
a
but maybe
rainbow-
maybe somebody else on the show was. I don't think I was.
Well, I'm just going to say, I'm speaking out. I'm speaking out.
Okay, you go ahead.
There is a rainbow flag in my area, and I'm against it. I'm appalled by it because it's not Canadian. It's a rainbow flag.
Well, I don't
I've
understand.
seen
Is
it
it flying?
before.
Is it why you're just against the
They
flag, or you're
pull
against,
it?
or you're against where they're flying it? I don't understand.
I'm against them flying. I'm against them flying it because
Why?
I see it, and I'm going to show my sister it one day. And it's a school, and it's a big school. And what I see, I don't like what I see.
Okay. Well, you're against them flying it
It's
at
gender.
a
It's
school? Yeah.
Yes, it's a school.
Okay.
It's not Catholic. It's nothing. It is a nothing school.
And nothing school. You mean a
And
public
I'm
school?
sick of it. I am sick of these parents where I live treating their kids to be a certain way that they're not.
Well,
It's disturbing. It's gross. It makes me sick. I've seen it in the grocery store. I see it in the schools. I have volunteered. I am active. I speak up, and I will never, ever volunteer in that school because of that flag.
well,
And maybe one day I will take a photo of that flag and I'll send it to you.
I've got the picture. I understand. No need for the photo. I've got the image in my mind.
I know, me too.
It's
Me
okay.
too. And I've
Uh,
seen it several times. And it's just, I don't get it. I don't get it. This transgender, this like LGBTQT garbage, this university garbage. Oh, go to university. You know what? Bring it out. Well, you know what? Long run, yeah. It'll catch up to them.
Well, Sandy, I'm just can I just say
God.
something? Can I inject a little bit? Here?
Sure.
I think that you are a sweetheart. And I think that you are one of the brightest rays of sunshine out there. You absolutely
And your
are.
caller lady too. And
Yeah.
Pam.
Yes, Pam too. So it hurts me to see negative energy coming out of you. So I just hope
I know.
that through this you find tolerance and love in your heart for everyone, and don't let this overwhelm you. Don't let the darkness overtake you.
No.
It's
Never.
a trap. And
It's a trap. You
it
know
is a
what?
trap.
Absolutely. And I keep a journal.
Yeah.
And the last time I was writing, the first thing I said was, it's a trap.
Well, the darkness, the anger, the hatred, the
darkness.
intolerance, that's the trap.
I'm not angry.
Yeah.
I'm not angry. I'm not going to let it make me angry.
Good.
And I would never I've done a lot of volunteer work, and I will never volunteer in that school. I made my point.
Yeah.
Because you don't know, like, you don't want to say anything wrong. You don't want to do anything wrong. Like, they're very, where I live, they're very, it's not democracy. It's not libertarian. It's very hush hush where I live.
Wow.
And it's sometimes it's scary, and sometimes it's political, and I just learned not to anymore. So like I'm not gonna run myself down trying.
It's going to be okay.
Don't run yourself down trying. Yeah, it's gonna be okay.
It's going to be okay.
Yeah, it's gonna be okay.
Yeah.
It's gonna be rough, and I'm in a rough town, my friend. Trust me, I'm in a rough town.
Yeah, well, they're no match for you. All the ruffians out there are no match for you. You can handle it.
Ruffians? Well, we should start a new one. Call it Ruffians.
There you go. Listen, we're going to move on, Sandy, okay? Thank you for the call tonight.
Thank you.
Okay,
I
see
love
ya.
you, hon. You're the best.
Yeah, you're pretty sweet yourself. Thank you. Take care.
Thank you. You too. Take care.
Bye.
Cheers.
Hello, Charlotte. How are you?
I'm good. How are you? I'm
Okay.
surprised I got on.
Yeah, well,
Well, I have a little story to tell you
okay.
about pronouns.
Okay.
Now, it didn't come out as pronouns, but I have a niece who's 19 years old, and she changed her name from Nancy to Ara or something like that. And she was over on the weekend for Easter dinner. And she said, I said, Nancy, do you want this? And she looked at me and she wouldn't speak, right? And I yelled at her because I didn't have kids, so I'm a little bit bossy. And she said, quit dead naming me. And I said, what the heck's that supposed to mean? And then they went into her and her little 13-year-old brother go into a spiel about dead naming people and pronouns and all this stuff, and I don't believe in it. I'm in agreement with most people on here.
Okay.
Are you still there?
I'm still here, yeah. So they said don't dead name, which is, what is that? That's like, what is that? Dead naming.
Well, I guess it means that the person you were calling is dead. That's what they say. Was it Jordan Peterson? He was in trouble for dead naming that woman or transvestite that turned into a man, or vice versa. I don't follow it that well, but he was. It was because he dead named her, meaning that he spoke her old name.
I see. Okay.
So this is, like I grew up on a farm, been conservative, like half liberal when I was young, but pretty well conservative my whole life. And now and I went to Catholic school, and this is the new normal for these children who are being educated by the state to confuse us. I don't know if that makes sense or not.
Yeah, sort of. It can. I don't know.
I don't know.
I grow weary of all this.
So am I.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like I just said myself, I really don't know how to converse with these kids anymore.
I don't know.
Like,
man.
I know.
I have lots of friends, and in the LGBTQS plus whatever community. I can't go all the number. Today's in that video, there were other letters added.
The
I've
alphabet
never had
community.
an issue myself. I've
Until
never
now.
had an issue in the way that I speak with people.
Until the last couple of years, right?
Yeah, but I'm not on campus.
I never had
Maybe
an
that's
issue with
why.
it.
People I know, it's just never been it's never been an issue. As far as I know, maybe
but
maybe I've been offending people and not realize. To me, the whole thing just seems silly. So
it really does. And those people that were on that, the first thing that you showed, where they were talking about their pronouns, and it could be this pronoun and the next day that pronoun. Yeah. That's not the English language as we understood it.
Yeah.
And I think that we are closer to the English language than young people today. Yeah. None of it makes sense. It's just not making sense. And if it doesn't make sense, it can't be real.
I got you. Listen, we're going to move on. Your call's breaking up a bit, so it's a little hard to hear you. So we're going to move on to the next caller. I do appreciate you. Thank you. And here's Jeremy. Hello, Jeremy.
Hello, Rick. How you doing tonight?
Great, sir. How are you?
Good. Can you hear me?
I can, sir. Loud and clear. Go
All
ahead.
right.
Yeah.
So this goes back to cultural Marxism. Remember how I talked about that?
Sure. Yeah, I can see that.
So it's all about state compulsion. It's about conformity to the ideology of the state.
Yep. Yeah, I can see that.
Who's enforcing pronouns? The state.
Yep.
Right?
Yep, that's true.
So this goes back to a model that I called the Mao model, which is about enforcing compulsion of the state ideology.
Mm-hmm.
And it's designed to create a state of confusion. And through that chaos, through all the confusion, they come to a point of order out of chaos, which is more laws, more regulation on speech.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's all it is.
Yeah.
I mean, at face value, that's what it all is about. It's designed to cause people to feel uncomfortable and confused and question reality, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just another psyop. It's just another psychological game to cause it. Well, I mean, cultural Marxism is designed to basically erode the nuclear family. We've seen this over the past years, right? Black Lives Matter. Originally, they had, some sort of statement about basically a war on the nuclear family, right?
Yeah.
So now I've been studying this kind of stuff for a few years, kind of, just touching it here and there. And I've come to understand it fairly well. But a lot of people have no idea what the hell is going on.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I get from a lot of your listeners. It's, you know what I tell people is you don't need to understand it because it's just nonsense. It's not real. So you spend your time learning about real things, not about silly fictional things, right?
I think,
Like you
sir,
watch
I
a movie
think, you know
for
what, Jeremy?
entertainment.
I think you just hit the nail right on the head, which is why when I'm watching that video that we watched tonight from the university, I was left more confused than ever. It really isn't real. I don't think they understand it themselves. And they're trying to teach this to us. They're trying to teach us something that is nonsensical. It makes no sense.
And then, right. So I come from a compassionate position, and it's not compassionate to endorse mental illness, right? That's the left. That's the liberal Democrat. The modern liberal Democrat is they disguise themselves with this this cloak of compassionate way of thinking to deal with all of our problems. But what they're actually doing is making everything worse.
Yeah.
So if you go along with delusion, you're just enabling delusion, which creates more problems.
Yes,
So
sir. Yes, sir.
I'm going to make this short tonight because I'm really busy. And do you remember during the pandemic when you told people that your rights don't end where their fear begins, right? And everybody was very firm on that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I've created a new one, and I say, my rights don't end where your delusion begins.
Mm.
In other words, I also have the right to my freedom of belief, my freedom of opinion, my freedom of expression, my freedom of association.
Yep.
And, you know, that's where we're at. So you don't have to go along with it. It's a bad law. It's not a in good faith law. It's not consistent with our Constitution.
Right.
But Bill C-16, again, this goes back to Bill C-16, right?
Yeah.
So learn about Bill C-16. Learn that it's a bad law. It implemented gender identity. It was an amendment to our Human Rights Code.
Yeah.
It was an amendment to our Criminal Code, and it endorsed and legalized this gender identity. Yeah. All right. Good enough.
Okay. Well, your call
It's a
is
lot.
your connection is falling off.
I'm hanging up.
Okay. Thank you, Jeremy.
Sorry about
Really very insightful.
Have a
Thank
good
you.
night.
Here's
Have a good
Isabel.
night.
Hello, Isabel. How are you?
Oh, not too bad. Jeremy hit it right on the head.
Yeah, I think he summed up a lot there.
He did. I mean, this is, I sit and I look at that round table and I'm thinking, what a bunch of Skittles. Oh my God. Like, really? You want us to believe this is like a play game? They don't even know what they are.
Yeah.
And they just sit there and make up pronouns. And I'm thinking, okay, so maybe your way around not getting your snowflake feelings hurt, why don't you all print badges and then every day you can wear a different badge? And then we're not confused as to who you are, he, she, her, it, them, a furry, I don't know, a cat, a dog. Oh my God. But this is to totally confuse again.
Yeah.
And this is the life of Trudeau. Let's, you know, I'll embrace these poor people. And they fell into that, and they think that they're being embraced by him when he only uses them for what he requires, and that's votes. And it's sad. It's sad. I mean, I hate to say it, but yes, I was told not long ago that my grandson has a friend, and the friend's name is Ash. And I said, oh, that's a nice name. Where does she live? Boom. Not she. The name is Ash. I said, well, so what am I saying? Well, he, Ash. I'm like, I can't remember that. I'm 71. I'm going to go with Ash. But it's ridiculous.
How do you even use she, he? That's like, I don't even, how would you use that in a sentence? I don't know. I don't understand. Do you understand?
I don't get it either. Nope. I have 2 dogs. And the male is neutered. What do I call him? A he it? And my female is spayed. Do I call her a she it?
Well, if it's a she, he, then you would say, did you talk to she, he on the phone today? Is that the way you would say it? I don't know. I'm asking.
I don't know. I don't get it. And I just looked at my daughter and I said, okay, so here we go. Ash. Like, I didn't know before my daughter was bisexual. That's fine. That's not my business. What your sexual preferences is your business. I don't want to know about it. There's things you don't know about, Mom, and we're just going to keep it that way. But yes, she married a woman. She divorced her husband. Well, it wasn't going well, but she married a woman. Greatest companion ever. And I wish them all the best, and I get along with them well. However, I have to can't say anything about the flag or the LGBTQ. And I'm old school, so things will come out of my mouth because I don't have a filter. I lost that when I turned 50. So I have to be careful, and I don't do it on purpose. But I've gotten to the point now, I am so sick and tired of the pride parades and the stuff they do with the, what do you call it? When they do the shows.
The drag
like
queen
RuPaul
story
and
time
all
things.
those drag queen. Yeah, that's like, I'm not interested in that. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to get so mad one day. I'm going to have a straight parade. Going to march down my little town with a straight parade. Because if they can be proud of who they are, I can be proud of who I am. If I have to accept you, you're going to have to accept me. I'm too old to bend. I will accept to a point, but these pronouns are ridiculous. And like I saw tonight on there, I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, you're totally obliterated with all this. You're so self-consumed when there's other stuff that's going on in this world that you should be concerned about, but you're blindsided. Because it's all about me, and it's not about anything else. And I see that's what it is. It's become a circus. And it's to be, like Jeremy said, it's they're brainwashed and they fell into this and they just keep pushing it because the government doesn't want them to see everything else that's going on. So we'll make them so self-consumed with themselves that they're ignorant to everything else that's going on in this normal world.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
Which just blows my mind.
I don't know if normal is the right
see-
word. Maybe the mainstream world. I don't know if normal is the right word. There's a lot of weirdness out there in the world, man. There's a lot of weirdness out there in the world. A lot of weirdness. And people that you think are normal are anything but, quite often. So normal.
Yeah.
That's why I say, man, just got tolerance. That's the best we can do. Tolerance.
It's tolerance, and I think the old school folks like us remember what it was to have to work and make a living and earn a living. And I was always told, if your hands were dirty, it's because you did a damn good day's work. Mm-hmm. But if your body was busy, your mind didn't flutter off into these little cascading rivers of making up things because we didn't have time. We were too busy working and earning a living and supporting a family. This didn't come into it. But the way they're going now, there isn't going to be any families because these women aren't going to have kids. I don't see it.
All I know is I thought for a while, I thought we were at a pretty good place. I thought that we had a high level of harmony and tolerance in our communities in our society, at least around here, it seemed to be. And now it's like everybody's pushed outside their zone, and everybody's in, well, not everybody, but you have people fighting, and it's because they're pushing, you know, their agendas, their perspectives, their beliefs. They're pushing it into the other person's space and saying, you must accept me. I already do. No, you really have to accept me. You need to endorse me, you know, or, you know, you have to reject what you think, or you're a sinner, like you're a sinner, or whatever the perspective is. But people have become entrenched, and it's right back to where it was decades ago. All the progress that was made has been destroyed in a very short period of time. And for what? So that, like,
it's not getting them any further ahead, and it's not bringing people together. No. First, we got pushed apart with the COVID, then the jabs, then we got pushed apart with the masks. Yeah. And now they're going to push us apart with this.
It's already happening.
It's like it can't get any worse. The division is becoming greater and greater. And like you say, I thought we were coming to an understanding. Now they want to bring out these pronouns, and you want to change your pronoun every day. So today you feel like a guy, tomorrow you feel like a girl, and maybe next week you feel like a cat.
Except the only thing that I'm seeing that concerns me from, you know, from the side that's, I don't know what you'd call the other side. I see a lot of the freedom movement out there, like the freedom movement. I don't know if it is whatever it is. All I'm saying is, you know, it's, what was I trying to say? It is a trap to participate in this, and we need to be very careful. Or I should, like, I'm not there, but I do see people becoming the very thing that they have been accused of being, which is to be intolerant, to be a bigot, to be angry, to be even potentially violent, like to the point where you want to fight with someone, right? No, man, you are becoming exactly what they said you are supposed to be. Like, that guy's a homophobic. Well, don't be homophobic. Participating in this, huge mistake. You just laying right into their hands, man. Whoever is pulling the strings, and they're playing both sides like puppets. It's stupid.
They are, and they're sitting back. This is like the Coliseum. Throw the guy to the lions and let's see who comes out.
Yeah,
and this is exactly what they're doing.
Pretty
they're
much
throwing us at each other to see what the outcome is, while they sit in the higher spot and go, "Oh, look at these fools."
Yeah, and you know what? If you participate, you're destroying yourself.
Yes.
And you are, like I said, kind of destroying, in my view, the very thing that you think you're trying to defend, because you're playing into it, and you are becoming the very thing that the other side has accused you of being, which you kept saying, no, I'm not. You think back to Ottawa and the convoy, everybody was welcome. Everybody was giving each other hugs. Everybody was like, it doesn't matter if you're gay or this, or everybody comes. And now it's become, we hate this and we hate you and we hate that. And the other side's like, yeah, well, you're a bigot and you're a homophobe and you're a white supremacist and you're a this and you're a that. And then everybody's out there fighting, and everybody has become intolerant, and you've become the very thing that they accused you of being. It's a trap. Don't participate. It's the only way to win, because if you play, you lose. It's a no-win scenario.
It's like they threw out the if you're a fisherman, they threw out the fly, and you're going to catch on to it, or you're going to get pulled in.
Yeah.
And to me, I live in a very small community.
Yeah.
I don't see that here. There isn't one that I've seen, one rainbow flag in this town.
Mm-hmm.
If it is, it's hidden. I haven't seen it. And it's not that I say it's wrong to fly it. To be honest with you, my daughter gave me a rainbow flag I flew it 1 year in my backyard. But I did it out of respect for her. I didn't, and I said that to her, I would fly it. When you come, I will fly the flag for you. But don't expect to come here all the time and see that flag flying, because that's not going to happen. But I will do it for you. I respect your belief. Just don't ram it down my throat.
Yeah.
That's my way of thinking. I'll respect your belief. Don't ram it down my throat. I don't take a drum and march up and down town and go, okay, I've decided to go back to church, so everybody has to come back to church, and if you don't, you're a sinner. So I said, it's the same thing here. I will respect you, but that doesn't mean that I have to swallow what you're feeding me either. But I'll respect you. But when they start this ramming it down your throat, I'm like, I just walk away. I would walk away. I haven't had it here, but I would walk away. Rather than participate and be pulled into it, I'll walk away. Then I've made my decision that, okay, you do what you want, but I'm not participating in that. So see you later.
We better move
You're not
on.
going to round me up.
Thank you for the call. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you. I've been with you all day. Thank you so much. You have a
Okay.
great night.
You too. See ya.
Bye-bye.
Okay, and is it Rob?
Yeah, it's Rob. Rick,
Hey,
how
my
you
man.
doing?
Good. How are you?
Man, I have just been on my edge of my seat since a few days ago when you said you wasn't taking any phone calls. I'll tell you, I'm not going to take up much of your time, but you know, lots of folks everywhere seem to be blindsided by their history. You know, Lenin, he imprisoned all the people that were against him and his movement inside Russia. When he died, Stalin carried on, and people better not forget that. He had political prisoners in the northeast parts of Russia, mining gold as virtual slaves. And it was men and women, and it was known in the 50-degree minus weather that whenever women had babies, you know, sometimes they would just simply throw those babies in the snow and let them freeze to death. But the truth of the matter is all throughout the war of World War II and the Korean War conflict and all of this other stuff, people better remember that the good old USA and Britain and Canada and nobody tried to shut down the Gulag. It still existed. And some of the political prisoners of the Gulag didn't escape. They was never released from the Gulag until after 1974. So the ideology behind it was is people just forget. You know, I get some people that say, oh, this is good, that's bad. But Stalin actually allowed Adolf Hitler to help establish the Luftwaffe. He actually permitted them to have target practice ranges and stuff for their Luftwaffe inside Russian territory and allowed them to gain strength. But people just gets confused about their history. Stalin, he put an end to the Ukraine. He took over they exiled to death camps, basically north of Moscow, all of the church leaders. They decimated it for their cause. But the startling part about it was yes, Roosevelt didn't want to go into a World War II conflict. He had to be convinced. But even after war was over, the Gulag remained, and there was more population after World War II inside the Gulag and that belief and that fascist movement than anybody could truly understand. I just think that we're having a real scary reflection of what should have been put to death, I think in some way that it still lives. If you follow me on that, Rick. I mean, there was all of the community seats of important people were removed and put in the gulag. You know, it was so bad. At World War II, there was an estimated 2.9 million souls inside of the gulag. And then later, after World War II, that population increased greatly. And it wasn't entirely removed until after 1974 in our history. But all of our presidents and all of our leaders and everything, they never did anything to stop the political gulag. It had to be ended. You know, it had to shut itself down because of the Soviet Union's fall and Ronald Reagan era. But people better remember that all of those people that was in formation and that movement, nothing ever really happened to them. So people better take note on what's going on here. You know, when it gets to the fact where you have been taken and put in a position to where you're just basically a life support for a federal government. You know, it's the same as the Matrix. They got you plugged in. They do control things in a sense, and it's not unlike history. And history always has a tendency to repeat itself if we allow it. But I don't want to take up too much of your time, Rick. I just appreciate you taking my call.
Thank you, sir. You have a great night.
Thank
Okay. And here's, it's Dom Palm, the one from British Columbia.
Hello, my dear. I'm going to just say hello, and then I'm going to put my niece on. She's visiting. Just a minute. Okay. Hi, Rick. It's Pam.
Oh, hi. So nice of you to drop by.
How you doing?
Great. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm just over here looking after my aunt. You know. But I just wanted to say, boy, if you're gonna knight people, you're gonna have to get away from the sirs now. It's gonna have to be it, they, them, their sir, it, they, them, their Dom Palm, and it, they, them, their Leo, and it's gonna get quite confusing, isn't it?
Oh, it's already confusing. I can't. I'm not going to put much more effort into trying to figure it out because I don't think I can.
Well, you know, and
whatever.
I mean, it's absolutely mind-boggling. It really is. I just and I'm thinking if you're, I was listening to your other callers there, and you know, if people go and fly these flags and they compel and capitulate to doing whatever these people want, then you're letting people possibly with mental illnesses control you. Because some of them might have mental illnesses, and very serious ones.
Well,
so you know, every time I mean, it's nice to respect a person as a human being.
Yeah. But
if you have to listen to someone say, "Oh, well, I want to be called a dog today," or "I want to be called a he, she today," or "I want to be called a them, there tomorrow, but a he, she today." I mean, they're just playing with your mind, and it's their mind that isn't sound.
I hear you.
So, you know, we're not all psychologists, and we're not all doctors in psychiatry. So, you know, I just say, be who you are in your own inner self, and whatever, if you believe in God, then, you know, go that route, because you get some sanity there. But just if you capitulate and bow down to this stuff, that's exactly what you're doing. You're bowing down to it, and you're accepting it. And when you accept things, then you lose your own inner ability to have control over yourself, I think. You know, if you go and accept somebody else's illness, I mean, I have been around so many mentally ill people in my life. It's just, it's getting worse and worse.
When you say that they're
And,
mentally ill, what aspect of this are you referring to? Just the
well, a lot of
language
them
that
are
they're
on
using?
a lot of them are on medications, for one thing. Some medications we all know have side effects. A lot of them have had really abusive relationships when they're younger, and they just don't know how to deal with it, and so they go into kind of a fantasy way of thinking. I mean, I'm not a psychologist, but you know, it's just common sense. There's so much mental illness around now. It's just getting so prevalent. I don't know if it's what's in the foods or how people are living, or maybe they're just becoming too self-absorbed with themselves. I mean, you know, listen to that one person. I don't know if it was a hip they, them, them. But anyways, you know, saying that something about a fluffy bed and making you feel like you're on a fluffy bed. I mean, all the stuff going on in the world right now, and him, they, whatever it is, wants to think about feeling on a fluffy bed. I mean, maybe how about a nice padded bed in a nice fluffy room, you know? I don't know, but it just doesn't make sense. It's just not making sense. And I mean, can you imagine, what are we gonna, hang on, let me just say one more thing. Mm-hmm. If you're gonna, okay, years ago, I had a store in Vancouver, and I had a little washroom in it for me and the staff. And then a guy came in, and he wasn't going to give an inspector, and he wasn't going to renew my business license unless I put a handicap washroom in. And there's no way. It was a cement wall. The washroom was really small, and I didn't own the building, so there's no way a handicap washroom could have gone in. And then all of a sudden, I said, how am I going to, you know, fight this with City Hall? And then it just dawned on me, and it said, wait a minute here. I'm doing aesthetic services here. And I went to a government college, and which was subsidized by the taxpayer, I guess, it's a government college. And I said, and that college did not teach me how to lift handicapped patients onto a massage or spa facial chair. So I said, what am I going to do? Sue the government for not training me properly? Well, it's the same thing now. They're saying, oh, we have to use these words now, or we could be accused of hate crimes or whatever if we don't, you know, capitulate and do what these people want. Well, so what do? Sue the education system for all of a sudden telling us now, with all the books that they brought us up on, that where, you know, in history where they called Sir Walter Raleigh a sir, and, you know, Lady Elizabeth such and such, or Lady Diana. And these are all written documents and history books that people are studying. So what are we going to do now? I mean, listen to the education system with these people now coming into fold and trying to control the education system? No, we can say, we're not standing up for this. And if you trained us to be this way and to use these words, then those are the words I'm going to use. If these people want to use their words, then let them use their words. But don't shove it down my throat.
Okay, well, it is now just after 10 p.m., so we're going to wrap it up. But thank you, Pam.
You're welcome.
Always a pleasure.
Have a good night.
You too.
Okay, bye-bye.
And that brings our calls for the evening to an end. And yeah, thank you, everybody, for joining me here on the program. It's a great privilege, as always, to have you spend your time here. You could be any other place, and you chose to be here, and it's been a very long day. I know some of you have been here from the very beginning this morning with the National Citizens Inquiry, and we will be back tomorrow morning. What time did we start this morning? I believe we started at 9:45 a.m. So same time tomorrow morning, 9:45 a.m. And if you have not subscribed over on Rumble, please consider doing that, because that is really where the bulk of the audience spent the day today. watching the NCI. That is a free speech social media platform. The NCI available only for part of the day on Facebook, and they kicked us off YouTube right away. So that's the way that rolls. And I'll be back rolling with more of it tomorrow at 9:45 a.m. Eastern Time. The inquiry begins then. I will catch you mañana on the flip side.
This has been a Maverick Multimedia production.